A rich family returns to its farmhouse to spend time away from their hectic lives. To serve their guests and look after their needs, they hire a new maid. Not knowing her vindictive motives, they welcome her into their lives. Despite finding mud on everything the maid touches, the family doesn't find anything unusual about her. The maid slowly blends in with the family members and sabotages each and every one separately as she finds out their dark sides. Strap in, movie enthusiasts, it's recap time. Today, I'll explain a horror mystery movie called The Feast from the year 2021. So let's start. The film opens with a construction worker passing out at a drilling site. The scenes are then shifted to a rich family living in a luxury house that's built on a farm. The mother, Glenda, is seen doing skincare in her meditation room. Her son, Gwarid, is seen touching himself in front of the mirror. The second son, Guto, is seen walking up to the shed to cut some wood logs. Their father, Gwyn, is seen patiently waiting in an open field for some creatures to hunt. Cadi, a replacement for the family's old maid, shows up outside the house. Guto and Glenda come outside to receive her. There, Guto's axe metal breaks and falls on his foot, causing him an injury. Glenda takes Cadi inside and mentions that her husband is hosting some guests for the day, so she must be of good use. Left alone to work, she puts on a white tablecloth over the food table. She gets scared when she hears the sound of gunshots from the field and leans on the table. When Glenda shows up, Cadi immediately backs off, but leaves a dirty brown residue on the tablecloth. Glenda checks Cadi's hands and finds them clean, so she blames the dryer cleaner and rushes to get a new tablecloth. Gwarid comes back to the kitchen for his drink and catches Cadi off guard. Glenda comes back and harshly reminds Gwarid to greet the guests if he wants his father to pay his allowance. Later, Cadi gets distracted by Guto, who's playing his guitar outside, so she ditches work and starts snooping around. She creepily takes a peek at Gwarid from outside his bathroom and watches him shave his entire body. When she rejoins Glenda and helps her cut some fruits, Glenda gives her a little introduction to her family. With her husband being a political figure, the family lives in London but often likes returning to its farm. There, Gwyn shows up with the hunted rabbits and asks Cadi if she knows how to skin them. Cadi becomes grossed out and runs outside in the fields. As she falls, Gwarid holds her and assures her that his father is of no danger since he's too busy with his politics. When Cadi returns to the kitchen, Glenda notices that Cadi's shirt has gotten muddy, so she offers Cadi to walk up to her room and borrow a white blouse. Cadi goes to Glenda's room and takes her time snooping around. The minute she walks out, she is met with Gwyn, who apologizes to her for scaring her earlier and asks if he can be friends with her. Cadi ignores him and quietly walks away. For some strange reason, Gwyn's ears pop, which causes him pain. Cadi goes back and starts prepping some snacks for the guests. She sings an old song that grabs Glenda's attention. Glenda finds it nostalgic because her late mother used to sing it to her. Hence, Glenda ends up singing along with Cadi. Gwyn shows up behind them, and Glenda asks him to grab something they can light the candles with. Gwyn goes into Guto's room in search of his lighter. Guto catches him from outside the window and calls him out for barging into his room like that. The two have an awkward conversation, through which it is revealed that Guto used to be a junkie who overdosed and nearly died. Gwyn reminds Guto that he won't be taking him back to London until he's fully healed. In the end, Guto takes out his lighter from his pocket and lends it to his father. Up next, Glenda gets ready and walks to Gwarid's room, only to find him missing. She asks Cadi if she's seen him, but she replies with a no. Subsequently, Cadi and Guto walk up to the shed in their free time. Guto compares his lifestyle in London with Cadi's life in the small town and finds it suffocating, but Cadi doesn't feel the same way. Later, the two take a stroll in the woods and pluck some mushrooms. When the first guest, Euros, arrives at the farmhouse, he finds Cadi sitting alone outside the house. He is so distracted while mocking Cadi for sitting idle that he doesn't notice when the bottle of wine falls from his hand. Gwyn shows up, orders Cadi to clean up the mess, and takes Euros inside. Cadi ends up picking up a broken glass from the mess and shoving it inside her lady part. She goes back into the house and serves Euros the snack tray. Glenda takes Euros' shoes and socks, which have gotten wet from the wine spillage, and asks Guto to grab a new pair for Euro. When Guto returns with the socks, Gwyn sends him to get Gwarid. When Guto goes into his room, he once again finds Gwarid touching himself weirdly in front of the mirror. There, he suggests that they get help from Cadi and leave the boring town since both of them hate their parents and their lifestyle. Gwarid spins the subject and makes Guto uncomfortable by asking if he touched Cadi during their stroll into the woods. Disgusted by the accusation, Guto expresses how unworthy Gwarid is of his escape plan and walks out of the room. Outside, Euros gobbles up a snack and becomes disgusted when he finds a wet hair strand caught up in his mouth from the snack. Later that night, Euros sits down with Gwyn to thank him for helping out his enterprise. He then shows him a map and points out one of his company's exploratory areas where the drills dug deep enough to find the opening of an unknown cave. After discussing where it leads, Euros hands Gwyn some cash. Soon, their second friend, Mare, arrives. On the doorstep, she excuses that her husband Laurie couldn't join for dinner as he stopped on their way to help the cops lift up a crashed car from the river with his truck. They invite Mare in regardless and introduce her to their new maid, Cadi. Since Mare is from the same town, she knows Cadi. Glenda sends Cadi away to assemble the food and serve some wine. While taking out the main servings, Cadi looks upon the cooked rabbit and barfs on it. She then mixes it with the meat with her hands. Meanwhile, Guto is shown, whose foot injury has spread to his entire foot. Back at the dinner table, Mare tells everyone of the horrible death of Cadi's father and pities her. Gwyrid also shows up to greet Mare. Mare opens up the discussion of leaving her doctoral profession for a bicycle competition. Gwyn feels ashamed and claims that Gwyrid will soon continue his profession. Glenda ends the discussion by taking Mare away and showing her around the house. She takes her to her meditation room, where she finds Cadi standing behind them. She sends her out to get sage for the meditation room. Cadi goes into the woods and lies on tall grass as slithering tree branches wrap around her and engulf her. Up next, Gwyrid refuses to eat with the others on the table and gets Cadi to bring his diet food. When Guto looks over the diet food container, he finds raw meat chunks in it and becomes grossed out. He shows concern in a manner that offends his parents, so they send him back to his room. Headed back to his room, he turns the earlier plucked mushrooms into a liquid and injects it into his injured foot's toe to pass out. Outside, Gwyn and Glenda introduce Euros' business to Mare, which is utilizing people's assets to make them more money and diversify their businesses. They try to convince Mare to hire Euros to dig her husband's farmland and see if they find any enriched minerals. She bluntly denies it, explaining that the farm generates them a sustainable income. While they are busy trapping Mare, Gwyrid chokes on the meat chunks. Gwyn pats his back, but it doesn't work out. Cadi immediately takes over the situation and uses her hand to take out the stuck meat from Gwyrid's mouth. Glenda feels thankful to Cadi, so she takes over the kitchen work and requests that she go and serve Guto the food in his room. When Cadi leaves with Guto's food, Glenda ends up burning her hand and throwing the main dish on the floor. When Glenda gets on her knees to pick up the dish, she finds mud trails left after Cadi, which concern her. Inside Guto's room, Cadi comes across Guto's infection, which has spread to his entire leg. When Guto screams for help in pain, Cadi starts licking his maggot-infested leg. When she comes back to the table, Gwyn forces her to sing for his guests, but she ends up getting a weird pop in the ear, which causes him great pain. Cadi walks away to lure Gwyrid. She immediately hugs him and starts making out with him. Back in the lounge, Glenda shows Mare the giant painting and explains that it is a map of their house and the fields. There, she reveals to Mare that Euros Mining Company has found a rare cave opening in their land that is going all the way from Mare's farm to a place they know as the Rise. Mare goes into a state of shock and reminds Glenda of the cursed place. Glenda argues with Mare and calls her superstitious, but Mare decides not to take part in awakening the spirit lurking at the Rise and leaves. On her way out, Gwyn's ear pain becomes unbearable, and he faints. Meanwhile, Cadi takes Gwyrid to the same place where she was engulfed by the tree branches. There she shows him Guto and makes him chop off his infected leg with an axe. He refuses to do so, but when Guto starts revealing his dark past in the hospital, he aggressively chops off his leg. He then makes love with Cadi, not knowing she's placed a giant piece of glass inside her. As his privates get injured, the scenes cut back to the house where Glenda puts Gwyn to bed and forces Euros to leave the house when he lights up his cigarette. Left alone, she sees her mother's reflection and runs outside, only to find Mare returning to break horrible news. Mare reveals that the car her husband was rescuing with the cops has turned out to be Cadi's, and they found her dead body in there. On the other hand, Cadi takes a skewer from the kitchen and stuffs it inside Gwyn's ears, which explains his ear pop. Glenda rushes back inside, picks up a knife, and starts looking for Cadi around the house. Cadi takes Gwyn to the meditation room and locks it from inside. Glenda reaches her room, where she finds a picked-out dress for her. She puts it down and goes outside her house, only to find both her sons severely injured. She cries out loud and reminds them of the warnings that she used to give them to stay away from the Rise. Glenda goes back inside and feeds Guto's chopped-off leg to Euros, who eats the meat like a dog. Cadi shoves the skewer all the way into Gwyn's ear and takes his life. Glenda loses herself and shoots Euros for snatching away everything from them in the name of business. She then slits open her throat and dies. In the end, Cadi gathers everyone's dead bodies, piles them up, and sets them on fire. Hope you liked the story recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Thank you for being a part of Black's Movie Recaps. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Black's Movie Recap for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned, and until next time, stay captivated.